circumstances. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. How can we see each other with only a glance? Cake mixing, race mixing, matrix, kill the witches, three digits, made of
That real
sixes,
label.
KKK or white privilege, old spirits, blood riches, real hatred, fake forgiveness, skinny image, problems. I don't really know how we solve them. Gods made us, kings gave us, two enslavers, to enslave us, castaways on railways, underground dark web pages, Marvel heroes, connect the zeros, connect the pharaohs, bone marrow, Egyptian princes, dark and ancient, preserve the patience, black and Haitian, white and Asian, British coaches, eat crustaceans, ocean roaches, Illuminati, inject the bodies, GMOs, drug hobbies, Aboriginal, Pan-African, old biblical, reincarnation, hip-hop playlists, vocal rangers, sex is wages, sex changes, the game of life, bullets fly, ruin nights, players clueless, kids' rights, humans fight, nature loses, hard of hearing, dolomite, Darwinism, carbonite, hates a virus, terabytes, hard to live with, parasites, come on! Situation and circumstance, fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. And we see each other with only a glance.
Once again, welcome to KCBZ Radio.com. Of course, we're here at Situation and Circumstances. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Classic, another classic entertainer. And of course, in the building today, Julius, say what's happening to the people.
Going on.
Yeah. We always wait for the pause after that. We want to give him the opportunity to think of something. You know, he's just the next Russell Simmons with that shit. He just, thanks for coming out. Good evening and good night. And I think I added a line to that. Clearly, I'm a talker. And then, of course, we have a real special guest. Has not only recorded or at least was the videographer for one of our very first recorded shows at KCBZ Radio, but also just has a vast knowledge about a lot of things. And so I want us to all welcome, I'm hoping that I'm going to say this right because part of me wants to say it that quick version, but this is Hinnock, right?
Yeah, you got it
Say
right.
what's up to the people.
How y'all doing?
So y'all both that way.
I was being funny. I was doing the Julius.
Yeah. So once again, welcome to Situation and Circumstance. Today we're going to talk about, as always, we're going to talk about a host of different things. Um, um, we want to talk about if athletes and all the movie stars and just celebrities and entertainers in general. You know, we're hearing a lot more people vocalize and say some different things about the COVID virus, right? COVID-19. And so, should they be doing that? Should they not be doing it? Is there a responsibility? We're going to talk a little bit about some of that. We're also going to talk about leaders and obstacles. You know, what are leaders even necessary today? Do we still need leaders? Is that like a moot point? Like there's always going to be a leader as long as there's followers, but do we require them now? Do we need big leaders? Are we waiting on leaders when we should be doing more ourselves? I don't know, but we're going to talk about some of that as well, and a whole lot more. And so I want to just kind of jump into that because Hinnock and I earlier, I was telling him, you know, we talked about if you're an introvert with this COVID-19 thing, if you're an introvert versus extrovert, and you're having to stay in the house. Myself, I don't know if you can tell by this, but don't judge me. You don't know what I am if I haven't said it yet. But I'm an extrovert. Ding, 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 ding. You knew it, and you knew it, and you knew it. I'm an extrovert, and so so this is kind of hard on me, right? Right, staying in and if you're an introvert, it might be paradise. I don't know. It might be like, hey, I'm used to just being by myself anyway. And then there's this whole thing about when you're forced to do something, sometimes that makes a difference. So even if you're an introvert, someone telling you have to stay in a home might make you feel a little bit more like, oh, you know what, this is not cool. And so when I was speaking with my friend Hinnock earlier, who's joining us in this call right here or on this program, we were talking about how I said, well, I wonder if people who are non-black and I wanted to say non-people of color, but I don't suspect. I don't feel like everybody who falls under the category of people of color experience the same thing as the darkest of those people, or the people. I shouldn't even say the darkest because you have some dark Eastern Indians and what have you, but the ones. But I'm talking about those of us who are not only dark, the phenotypes, black folks. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
for
And I
sure.
remember mentioning. I said, I wonder if part of being an extrovert is wanting to be around people and just have that feeling of community and all of that you can't do during this time. And I'm noticing like we're walking and people are staying their distance and moving around you, and there's part of that's just familiar to me, right? I'm African American. People, I see different people keeping their distance from me sometimes anyway. And I was saying to Hinnock, I said, well, I wonder if now we should use this to show other people, now that they're seeing what it feels like for someone to want to keep their distance, if we should use this as an opportunity to show
Mhm.
them, or is there something to that, right? Like now you see how we feel without the COVID virus. We walk around like we got the virus all the
Yeah,
time in certain areas, unless we're around our own people, right? And then
for
he had a
sure.
remark that was very interesting that I want to invite him to share.
Man, I told them absolutely not, because over in China, I mean, over here, people at first were afraid of the Chinese or treated them differently because they thought, oh, if you're Chinese, you automatically got the virus. But in China, they're doing that to black people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anything is really ever going to make them experience or feel
And
that.
when you say they're doing it to black people, tell me. I don't know how much you know about it, but tell me a little. Is there a
So
little bit more to that than?
yeah, I'm not. I don't know a whole lot, but I know they were not allowing them into the stores, uh, and not into the hotels, not
Hospitals.
into the malls. They were
Wow,
getting evicted. Yeah, so
Yeah, I seen a
that's
story of a pregnant lady who tried to get into the hospital. She wasn't allowed.
into the hospital, and it wasn't even like, oh, you can't come in. It's like no black people allowed, like blatant in your face.
Yeah,
That's the reason why.
yeah.
shizzle. Let me just take you a little bit closer to home. So I'm one of those blessed fathers currently who, at least the majority of my sons happen to be out here with and or around me. And so the other day we were like getting ready to go crab fishing, right? And we got our masks on and doing all the masking and I looked it up online, going to the National Wildlife, etc., hunting fair game or whatever it's called, and went there to see, where we could go, and it said Half Moon Bay, and I had been wanting to go there anyway, and the plan was like not to go there, congregate and party with people, right? But for us four to go and go to our own specific area, keep the distance, and respect the virus, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
we got out there, and I know there's some listeners right now who are already in disagreement. It's like, why were you four together? That's part of the problem. Like we ain't, but uh, call and ask me that, and I'll answer. If you don't call or text or message it, I'm not even going to address it. But I tell you what, we went over to Half Moon Bay, and a Caucasian American with all the deputy garb on and all of that. We're getting ready to go to the section, and he says, "Well, where are you from?" Uh, okay, well, Hayward. Okay, well, what are you doing out here? You're not supposed to be out here, right? Now, apparently, in San Mateo County, apparently, and maybe some other counties, apparently something has passed where you're not supposed to go 5 miles outside of your particular county. I hadn't seen that and hadn't heard it at this particular time. Here's the deal: I can be taught, I can learn. I'm a learning human. So he says this, and then here's what the cracker said:
Okay.
we don't come to your neighborhood. You don't see us going to your neighborhood, bringing our disease and whatever. We went there with it. I want to
Wow.
say I was shocked. Like, not because I experienced some racist remark. How can I be shocked in that? And I've had the skin all my life. But I was shocked that I mean, that it was like, really? Like, we don't come to your neighborhood, don't come to ours. And it's like there's so many other ways that he could have said it. Then I asked him for his information because I said, I'm gonna have to report you. And then he goes and then he tries to bow down after that, right? Because I'm driving something nice. He sees that I'm the type that, oh, he's one of those reporting ass. No, right? He gonna write it down. He gonna write a letter. He gonna send, which is the type of guy I am. I'm gonna do all of that, right? So he obviously could feel that, and he tried to tone it down. He tried to say, well, okay, there's this law, and you're not supposed to be here, and so anybody who's here that's not supposed to be in this particular county, we're sending them away. And I said, "Oh, I get that." And even though we see people all over the place,
Yeah.
but it made sense. He's saying, "Well, all those people are residents, and if they're not, we're going to be asking them the same question. We're going to be sending them away." Now I felt a little bit better till he went back to his original. I want to call him so many things at this point. I'm trying to digress a little bit. He
Deserves them.
went back to his original feeling of, well, again, you don't see us driving to your neighborhoods.
Man.
You should have been like,
Ended
have you
with that.
heard of gentrification? Y'all all over my neighborhoods.
I mean, the
Right?
world, they do this to every country. They have a hand in every country around the world, dropping off diseases, giving diseases. I mean, smallpox was literally passed.
Creating diseases that haven't previously been there. Like, hey, let's create a new disease that can hurt people, and let's
Wow.
use a particular people to test it on.
Wow.
Come on. But yeah, so I'm just bringing us a little bit closer to
Man.
here. That was just Sunday.
Yep.
Whew.
That
Some
was
things
just
don't
Sunday.
change.
Not
Let me
surprised.
wipe
Just
off my sweat of
another reminder.
festivity real quick. That's my
Yeah,
sweat of festivity.
some things don't change, man.
And you're right about that. And then now what I have noticed is, and who wouldn't notice, regardless of what music or how you identify in any of the different ways, you're certainly going to. Hey, what's up, Arian? That's my big tall friend over there. I call him a big
Going
tall
on,
friend.
man? How
I'm
you doing?
tall, but he know how to make somebody feel short real quick. Uh, he about 12, 11.
Ah, hell
So
nah.
you know.
As I tear down my blinds.
Hey, right, right. Well, I'll tell you. So we have a whole rush of. Uh, in some cases, it seems like entertainers are eager to get out there and give their own version, their own potential message about what we should or shouldn't do, and even if it's a short or long message about the COVID virus. And I'm wondering, like, how do we feel about that? Is about this onslaught of like, and is it there? Do we feel like it's necessary?
I personally don't think so, especially because most of them aren't informed themselves. So passing down information that they're not informed on to other people who's going to possibly follow them is pretty dangerous
Yeah.
on any
And
situation.
in any situation, right? And I think, especially with this, things change so quickly. Um, about 2 months ago, or about a month ago, masks weren't necessary. They said masks were useless, but now they're requiring masks everywhere you go where people are. So when you have a celebrity who has so much influence and power saying something, well, they can be deemed incredible just 2 days later. So I think in this situation, in many situations, but in this situation, particularly where lives are at stake, you just got to let some people, the experts, quote unquote, deal with that. But again, that's with a lot of things. We always depend on celebrities and athletes to be the spokesperson. And I don't know if that's a black thing. I don't know if that's just in our community, but we always look for LeBron to say something, or for the hottest athlete or the biggest superstar in Hollywood to say something. And I don't know why.
Um, it's interesting, right? Because the thing Trump just recently said, about, again, misinformation, but he's somewhat of a celebrity. He was telling people that Lysol and bleach and all these things kills it. And I don't know for certain, but there's people out there that was like, oh, if he's saying it,
Right.
we go and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a
Right.
is
doctor
that
and
like an example? Like, does bleach and like is that to say that he's claiming these things? I guess are those examples of things that he's claimed that you're suggesting aren't like, hey, bleach don't kill it.
His,
Or I guess I'm
no,
trying to.
well, his logic was bleach kills the virus, so why not
Uh,
put it inside of you to
is
beat
that
the
what he
virus type
said?
of thing?
What?
Yep.
Oh,
Y-
how dare I use that surprised voice?
Yeah.
Carl Clincher is
Oh
a
wow.
nurse. A nurse in Texas just did that and killed 5 people and injured another 5.
That's a
She
nurse.
should be able to sue the government and say I got it from the leader of the
Like
free world.
that's
Shouldn't she be able
it's.
to get some money for
But
doing it?
you,
If
my
he
thing is, you right. It's like, but you a nurse.
But he
Why would you
exactly.
even do something stupid like that? Like
Yeah.
you ought to know better than that.
Yeah.
And
right.
these companies had to put out memos saying, "Nah, don't do that." Like Clorox, Lysol, all these different companies like, "No, do not
But
do
see,
that."
now, but if we take it a step, a different direction, we're talking about this virus, but athletes or entertainers, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Colin Kaepernick, when they speak out on things, we're like, okay, let's listen. But when
Mm-hmm.
Lil Wayne or when 21 Savage or when somebody YG speaks out on things, we're like, why would you put a microphone in his hand? Like what? Somebody should have took that microphone right up. But when a Jay-Z does it, or when a Diddy does it, and Diddy does this thing on IG, and he's just rallying people around and let's do it for the healthcare workers. When these people speak up, we salute them. But when
I
people
mean, I
who
think. No, go ahead, please.
no,
Um,
when people that we don't agree with or who are deemed ignorant,
Mm.
quote unquote, deemed ignorant for the listeners on the radio, we hate when they speak up. If YG or ASAP Rocky says something about Black lives, we'd be like, well, you should have just shut it up. You should, I don't, if they said they don't vote, we'll be like, hey, if you don't vote, cool, just do that over there silently. But when Jay-Z and all of these well-known, likable celebrities say what we want them to say, it's all good.
you can't. What's the saying goes? Can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Just for using that to somebody. That's a horrible saying. Now go
No,
ahead.
but
I get you though. No, I get you
you
though.
can't be like speak out because then if everybody somebody's gonna say stupid shit, you just gotta accept it.
Yeah,
And to
true.
me,
Because
that feeds a bigger picture, right? So, I mean, there's a so first of all, that supports something that new way thinkers. I'm not suggesting that no one that isn't new hasn't thought this before, but new way thinkers are like, hey, you know, we have in order for us to stop getting pigeonholed of what it means to be black, then like every culture has some smart guys, some idiots, some lovable people, and some assholes, right? And so we are no different than that. And so it's one of those things where like, okay, whoa, that was embarrassing what Kanye West said. He should be more like Michelle Obama. But they're both black, and they don't stop being black just because of what they know more of or less of, right? And so I think that in that case where it's like, okay, if Jay Z says rally the troops versus, okay, then we last week, right, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about, who was it, Boosie, Lil
Yeah.
Boosie, right? And he was on there talking about he having full fledged parties, right? And I gave him props on being smart enough to do some, clickbait stuff to get all of the different people to send him, nude pictures, nude breasts, and nude butt cheeks, and all this nice stuff. I'm assuming it's nice. I didn't see all of it or any of it yet, but I'm pretty hetero over here. Just that's my disclaimer. But then when he was on the Breakfast Club, right? And he's telling Charlemagne, he's telling them like, yeah, I'm having party after party after party, and like while this is happening, and big old parties, right? And so then to me that's ignorant. But I don't think it's ignorant because he's black. It's just ignorant wherever
Oh, of
you
course.
are.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right. And so then I'm wondering if because I think celebrities should be saying stuff. I also know that some of them may not have, it may not be from the heart, but if you're a celebrity out there and you haven't said anything, I don't know, I might have to question your agent because
Mm.
because everyone is at home. And if you, It's not about how many celebrities you hear say it. It's about which one would reach you. And so then that, just like there are different people that listen to all of them, the more of them that come out and encourage, like, stay home, don't do like Boosie. Because right now, anybody who's a Boosie follower, not anybody, but a certain amount, they thinking like, hey, like them other kids did that still doing the spring break thing. It was like, hey, we gonna have spring break parties anyway.
But see, I slightly disagree is
Uh,
I don't think it has anything to do with like the black or we want them to say something. It's we want them to say what we think. When someone says something that we don't agree with politically or socially, we're like, oh no, I can't believe he said that. You know, like when if Lil Wayne, well, when Lil Wayne said, "What's Black Lives Matter?" I feel welcome everywhere. Racism is most of my people who show up to my concerts and buy my CDs are white. Well, black people don't like hearing that. But when Jay Z has a whole album 444, and when I say show up to the Grammys with nigger on his back, we're like, yeah, he's standing up. That's things that we rally behind. But when an ASAP Rocky said he only go to Hollywood and sleep with white women and do cocaine and do jiggy stuff, he only cares about fashion. We hate that. We hate that as a community. I hate it as well. I won't like, act like I'm not part of it. I hate that as well. But that's his reality. That's his experience. We want everybody to have the same experience as us. And it's just not fair. When someone has a different opinion or a different point of view, we have to allow that. We can disagree, don't get me wrong, but we have to allow that opinion to exist.
I agree with you. You have to allow it. I just think it gets dangerous when one person is speaking generally for everyone. So for Lil Wayne is saying racism doesn't exist based on his experience and knowing damn well he has a unique experience, that could be dangerous. But if we take it for face value and be like, well, you're a celebrity who's living in a rich area and you kind of haven't made, so you probably don't deal with racism the same way the average black person on the street does. I could get it, but he shouldn't be speaking generally for everyone at the same time.
I
But
think we make, but I think when we say speaking for everyone, we fall back into that other trap, right?
yeah,
So Lil Wayne ain't my spokesperson.
Yeah.
Though I like some of his music and some of the blah blah blah, and I agree with some of his theories about certain things. He doesn't as a speaker he doesn't represent me, and I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier about there's this thing that happens. And listeners, you can certainly go back a few shows, go to our archives on YouTube. You can just go to kcbzradio.com, and then you can find out where our archives are, and we go a little bit more into detail about things like every time the like is every black person's responsibility to be a speaker
right.
or a role model for us. I'm not saying, and again, this is not, I'm not trying to kickstart that whole conversation, but,
Yeah,
and I'm also not talking about like, I think regardless of your color, as you, if once you get to the point where you have people where you have a certain amount of fans, I do think that there is some responsibility in what you're depicting. On the other hand, if you didn't get like we don't do we want everybody is not qualified to be a spokesperson for even their house, let alone their street or their village or they city and a whole people.
yeah.
So I don't want to really put that on them. Julie?
I think that's huge. I think that's the important thing because Lil Wayne, picking on Lil Wayne right now, if he says something that lined up with Jay Z or Colin Kaepernick, we'll be like, yeah, that would be great, right? When Kanye said he's voting Republican and all of this stuff, we were like, what? We hated that. It's just a different mindset. So again, I personally believe when celebrities don't have our point of view, we hate that. We hate that because as soon as Lil Wayne says something that is political, he might not be equipped to talk about it. But if he says something if all he said was yeah, I'll ride for mine. I love black people. I love black women. I love all of these things black. We'll say, cool. See, Lil Wayne, that's my dog. We wouldn't even bring up if he was qualified for it. But as soon as he says something that we think is coonish, or we think that he's tap dancing, or we think we're like, oh, come on, Kanye. He's voting for the opposite, and I'm putting these air quotes because black people generally vote Democratic. When he say I'm voting Democrat, we like, what? When Steve Harvey is meeting with Trump, we're like, what? When Jim Brown is doing stuff with Trump, we're like, what? But when Jay-Z and Beyonce and Diddy, they all voting for Barack Obama, we like, yeah. See?
How much do you think
But then it's
media,
who's showing that stuff.
the
Like,
media, exactly?
right.
How
Like
much
when
of
you
that
say
do they take?
we're using that word we too. I think that word we is being used way too much, and or it's particularized, right? So in other words, when we using that same example, when someone says, Colin Kaepernick is voting this, so we don't like it. Well, who is we? Because if we
We.
is black people, then there are some black people that do like it. There are some black Republicans. There are some black Republicans, and so even if it isn't the majority, I think that we have to differentiate when we're speaking individually as opposed to collectively. And some of that collectiveness that we speak on, I don't know so much. I think there was a point in time where you could wave a magic black wand on black people, and they all thought whatever this black person say, we all go for it. I don't feel like we still there. I feel
No,
like we support them individually, and some people we support collectively because all black people didn't like Obama, and they thought of all kind of reasons why this guy was anti-Christ. Black people did. Some black people
right.
absolutely didn't like him. Little Wayne is right when he says he's getting all his stuff bought by white people. Tech Nine was doing that for years and years and years and years and years and years, and he was professing that. He was like, black people aren't showing up at my concerts. Didn't mean they didn't like his music, but we're the type that go to a strip place and pick up the dollars off the, well, not we. Some of we are the type that'll pick dollars off the floor at a strip show and
Recycle.
use the same dollars and just recirculate them motherfuckers in the panties, right?
Uh,
And I did say, That's just it,
okay.
How much do you think media has a play in it? Because, for instance, the Lil Wayne and the ASAP Rocky situations, the reporters are asking them these questions, knowing the style of who they are. You know what I'm saying? You get an idea of who Lil Wayne is, but when there's other rappers, all they do is rap and speak on these things. They're not with the camera and a microphone in their face asking them like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost a specific tactic of like divide and conquer. Well, let me ask them because I know they're not educated on it. You know what I mean? Like they purposely always ask the ones that don't speak on the stuff generally these questions, but never the cats that do.
Yeah, no, I dig it. But as far as being educated, I think that's um
Subjective.
it's subjective because
No,
Yeah,
educated on those specific topics, not generally speaking.
but even then,
got you.
because I still believe it's subjective, but the reason why, and I agree with you, the media does have a role in it. However, the only reason we're talking about them is because they have opposing views. That's my whole point. They have opposing views to. We can't say we, but we know what that means, right? The majority. So when I'm saying we, is the average folk that we're talking about, right? So again, if ASAP Rocky and Lil Wayne said that, and they were completely uneducated to their standard, but they said something that lined up with Malcolm X, if they just said something about by any means necessary, you'd be like, okay, cool. If that's all they said was Black Lives Matter, not all lives matter, that would be enough. So we're not checking their education when it comes to stuff that we agree with. We're only checking their education when it's stuff that we hate that they're saying publicly.
I see what you're saying.
Or are they only letting it? And this is just what I wonder. Just being, I'm wondering is that all they're showing, right? So we all know, regardless of your culture, controversy sells, and then we also know that the actual culture that controversy makes the most money off of is us, right? So then when you look at both of those things, right, um, then it makes sense that if there is a certain person saying a certain thing, yeah, and it can even be a celebrity, but other other sources of media may not pick that up if they don't believe, hey, like, oh, he's being nice and polite and he's saying how much love and all of that. That's nobody's gonna tune in to us.
Yeah.
But we got these two dudes saying these opposing views, regardless if the majority of black people, and I don't know how we would like, first of all, how will we even know what the majority of us think about whatever it is unless everything was going through some kind of filter where we were all able to vote on, oh, should he get to say that on TV? We all feel this way. Because I know when I'm in a house with 10 of us, I don't know very many things that that all 10 of us agree with. And that's whether it's 10 of my own culture or a different one. Just 10 people. So I don't know. I don't know. I think there's something else. I think there's something else. I think there's all kind of underlying things inside of this whole thing. While there's certainly the truth of how the inconsistent parts of us are promoted in order for. So I just don't know if I feel like the other side doesn't exist as opposed to it exists, but it's not getting the press that it deserves.
And I agree with you on that because the for the Lil Wayne one specifically, he already had a issue with the lady, right? They had, I'm sure before the cameras came on, there was some kind of tension there. So in all the headlines, it was Lil Wayne says this,
Yeah.
and the interview is a lot more than that. Although I don't agree with that, but my point is it's a lot more than that. But the way the media spins is like, oh, we got a little piece we can use.
I
Lil
got you.
Wayne thinks Black Lives doesn't matter, whatever you know what I mean. They do the clickbait, and then most people are not even gonna watch the video or see like what Lil Wayne, fuck Lil Wayne. You get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
run with it.
Yeah. What about you, Arian? What's your thoughts on this? Do you, and actually I want to ask you this. What celebrity have you heard speak on this COVID virus thing that either one you thought was on point or you were embarrassed by if they were, regardless of their culture or whatever? Is there anything like that that's happened for you?
Um, Not really. I do follow Jay-Z and Beyonce because I think they are, everybody likes them and everybody, um, gravitates to what they're doing. And as young Black people are and the younger generation, they do gravitate to, Beyonce, and us older people gravitate to more, Jay-Z or whatever. But back on your point about the media does, I mean, you got to look at it. The media is a business. The media is there to get people to stay on that channel, because if you leave that channel, then their ratings go down, and then that means that affects their marketing shares of what commercials would be, advertising dollars on that particular network. So the more of attention and eyeballs they can keep on that network, the more revenue they can make. So whether it's positive or negative, or it's the truth or not the truth, or all the way being the truth, it's whatever you get out of it and take from it, and us as Black people, of course, they don't portray, they always try to make us look bad, just like with anything. Like, you never see the whole side of a situation when it comes to us. When things happen, it's always that little piece of information. Then you got to do your due diligence and go and say, oh, well, she did this, or she did this, like with the incident with Beyonce's sisters slapping Jay-Z in the elevator when they got in a fight and all that. Well, in the news, they show bits and pieces of it, but when you go to certain news channel outlets, they show the whole thing. It just depends on who you getting your information from, who wants to give you the whole truth and who wants to give you partial truth to make that individual either look bad or to get us to turn against that individual as a whole, and it's like, that's how I look at the media. The media is, I've done it for, I've worked around that industry for a while, for many years, with one of the largest cable companies out there, and I know the tactics and stuff that they do just to, to get the advertising dollar. And just like when you turn to Fox News, that's all they talk about is what everything that Trump does is positive.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I'm saying?
Which actually has fueled the success of their network.
Exactly.
People ain't, which is
Exactly.
I'm just piggybacking with you because
Yeah, that's
that's
what I'm
actually
saying.
what happened.
Yeah,
The stuff they say on there seems so ridiculous that guess what happens? People tune in for the ridiculousness. It's people that
exactly.
watch Fox News faithfully
Just for that.
that aren't Republican, don't like Trump, etc. Then you got people who watch it. Like, I'll be honest, I occasionally watch it, but I watch it for a different reason.
Yeah.
I watch it because I feel like I need to. You got to know
It's
you got to know
balanced.
your opponent.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
know your opponent.
Yeah.
So if somebody's out there that hates somebody that looks like me, then I need to know where that hate stems, how that hate is being fueled, what they're saying to each other about that hate. The better you know your enemy, the better you have an opportunity to defeat them.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
But you're absolutely right. Fox is
That's
making money, or not? Excuse me, not Fox. Fox News, because
Fox
Disney
News.
bought Fox. They didn't
Yeah.
buy Fox News.
AT&T.
So Fox is no longer owned by that rich cracker.
It's owned by AT&T. AT&T owns Fox News now.
Right.
So
Right. And so now we need to know who the owner of AT&T is to see what his feelings is. Because was that Rupert Murdoch that used to own Fox?
Yeah,
I believe it was Rupert Murdoch, and
Yeah.
he was well known to be someone who made it clear that he felt
Yeah.
a certain way about people of color, and then he had Fox. Well,
Yeah.
Disney isn't. I'm not saying ain't nobody in Disney, maybe this or that. We seen Lion King and different stuff where we were depicted certain ways, but you can't blame a whole entire. Anyway, without going all the way there,
Yeah.
that's for another show. All these innuendos and some of these cartoons, whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like I think it was smart that they bought Fox and didn't want to buy the news because they knew that the news represented this other separate type of thing.
It's content.
But the news
it's
didn't
content.
die off. It's
Yeah.
actually better than it was then because it
Yeah.
became its own hero. That network is its own hero.
Yeah.
Like the
That's
more
why,
ridiculous he gets, they get to use it and become more ridiculous with him.
Yeah.
It's
Same
entertainment.
reason Comcast bought, NBC. Like my point is, like, when you go on to MSNBC, you get everything you want to hear about Democrats. They're
Right.
pro-Democrat. That's anything Democrat. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but like you said, you have to have that balance. You have to have that because all Democrats are not, it's all a game. I believe in both of them tell you what they want, what they want you to hear to get into office. Some of them tell you, some of them do what they say they're gonna do. Some of them don't. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But you got those news outlets that just focus on one particular, either Democrats or Republicans, or it's not one that really focus on that have both on their side and that agree with both sides.
No.
That some of it's just like halfway. They're teeter-totter. They're not 100%. I'm agree 100% what Democrats say. I'm agree 50% what they say. I'm agree with 50% what they say. It's always off balance, whatever news network you watch.
Yeah.
It's
a business. They got their target audience, their target demographic, so they're gonna
target to those
target
individuals.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
most black people watch. Most older black people are black people. Period. Watch MSNBC because you got Al Sharpton on there. You got what I'm saying. So they target those type of those type of people that we generally follow. And to get them to say, oh, let's vote for this person, vote for that person, or whatever Democrat that's running in office, because they're our center point spokespeople for us. So
Let's switch it up. Let's go to a clip and
switch.
let's get some Beyonce in real quick. Let's get information. See that pun, that information and information. So yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Let's get some information real quick.
That was no big pun for sure. See my pun there. The big pun. so big.
Gotta check
I've
the.
been trying to stay on top of the placing this in different spots on Facebook to, and uh, I noticed that there's a few people that have left comments, but that don't want to
You can
reveal
tune
their
into the
names, and so I just want to
KCBZ
say to the people
radio
that if you,
if you want to hear
oh,
this track that's bumping. Go on, tune in to KCBZ radio. You can hear this track that's bumping right now. But anyway,
why is
other than
he
that,
saying it that way?
you know.
Why is he saying? Why is he saying it that way? You KCBZ
Don't know.
radio.
He over
That
there.
that that wasn't the voice of Casper the Kiragos. I know that,
No.
but
Nah, that's what happened when you got echoes in your ear and throw you off.
I I hear that. I hear that. Well, definitely, listeners. For those of you, what I was going to say is for those of you who want your comment read and you don't want your name said. Usually, we will probably say your name. So if you don't want that said, leave your comment and say you can say don't reveal it. But like with any show, they're usually going to ask you where you're from or Cindy out of St. Louis says. But we're not going to say your whole name and give them your Facebook information and all of that. We're that's against the law, number one. And then we're just simply not those people. And so I am going to read them in lieu of that. I will certainly not mention any of your three names. I see what you have written on what do you call Facebook Messenger. So when we come back, I'll certainly shout out some of those things. Yeah. And then, of course, we're here at kcbzradio.com. You can also go to kcbzradio.com and click on our YouTube or our archives and go to YouTube, and you can hear some of the shows that we've had in the past with varying guests and varying topics. And uh, please feel free to do that as well. Um, we are every Tuesday. 7:15 p.m. That's Pacific time. That is every Tuesday, 7:15 Pacific time. And if you get in the habit of, just go ahead and put that in your phone, set an alarm for yourself. Don't set it for 7:15. That's not how you'll be on time. If we start at 7:15, set it for 6:30. Listen to KCBZradio.com's fantastic selection of music while you are preparing a snack or two. Then by the time 7:15 comes, you see how my voice is inflecting a little bit. I'm getting a little more excited for you. I'm
10
excited
seconds.
for you because of what you're going to get ready to do. And so that's just going to be a wonderful thing. Thank you for tuning in to KCBZradio.com. Situation and circumstance, baby. Cheer. And now,
Also been working for a long time where you don't have to be racist anymore. It's called self-hate. It works on itself. It's like real estate of racism. Where just like that, when someone comes up and says something like, I am a God, everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was, a God. I just told you. That's who I think I am. Would it have been better if I had a song that said, I am a nigga? Or if I had a song that said, I'm a gangster? Or if I had a song that said, I am a pimp? All those colors and patinas fit better on a person like me, right? But to say you are a God, especially when you got shipped over to the country that you're in and your last name is a slave owner's. How could you say that? How could you have that mentality?
I mean, I know in the past you've talked about building hotels, doing things that are beyond people's normal frame of reference.
Yeah.
They know you as Kanye West, an artist. They know that you're moving into fashion. But these things, I guess, in a way, are hard for people to comprehend because they don't have that level of drive. Do you know what I mean? Has it always been like this for you? Have you always felt like you can set your mind to anything and you will achieve it ultimately?
I always felt like I could do anything. That's the main thing people are controlled by. Thoughts, their perception of themselves. They're slowed down by their perception of themselves. If you're taught you can't do anything, you won't do anything. I was taught I could do everything. And I'm Kanye West at age 36. So just watch the next 10 years.
Yeah.
One thing I want to express to people also, people think a lot of my motivation is very like megalomaniac and self-oriented. To the contrary, completely.
Man, I love it.
Mhm.
I personally love it, man. Ego. Everybody talks about how egotistical and conceited Kanye Mr. West is, and I think we all have a little bit of ego in him. And I think Kanye is a genius in what he does and what he has been doing. And a lot of things that he said that he would do, he has done, but that's because of his ego has driven him. Um, I understand a lot of people believe that it's only one type of ego. It's either you got ego or you don't. But I disagree with that. I believe we all have ego, and some people might have theirs in check, and some people might be running rampant. And some might just upset you because your ego is very low. Your self-esteem might just be very low. So it's just upsetting when you hear somebody who believes in themselves, somebody who is so certain in their ability. So it might just kind of upset you. But I'm interested to what these brothers got to say.
I like what you just said. Skinny, I don't know if can you repeat that last part you were just before you said you brother when you were talking about you were supporting you were saying things about how confidence and can you recite some of that?
I know a lot of people tend to hate people who have so much certainty in themselves, but it's often a reflection of their uncertainty in themselves. So their
So much certainty in themselves,
and
certainty in themselves, the confidence. Now I'm ready before I forget. I'm jumping in there now. I just needed you to start me again because I just heard everything that you just said and a little bit more. I watched this show, and I'm always careful with who I promote on here. I try to be. That's why I turn my can to the side. They don't need to get credit for whatever I'm pouring in my thing. But the show called that Lil Dicky doing, right? Dave. Dave, though. I don't know anybody here. Anybody else seen Dave? So Dave is Lil
Previews.
Dicky. You seen Dave is Lil Dicky,
Yeah.
a well-known rapper to some. I had heard a couple of his songs, of course, but didn't really know who he was. And actually, when I heard what I heard, I didn't even know that he happened to be well, he's Jewish, which I was going to say white, but Jewish. But of course, if you're Jewish, then and you look white, you still get to enjoy white privilege. But that's a whole other thing. And he gets that, but he was saying his woman in his relationship. His woman got a little bit upset with him. Not his woman, the woman he's with, got a little upset with him. Let me just not put that oppression in there, because she was like, well, your ego, and you keep on doing this and that. And he was saying those same things. He was saying that. So you're basically telling me that everything that the certainty that I'm having in myself and the way that I'm using my ego to establish different, you are a rapper. So part of being a rapper to some degree is having it started off with some ego maniacs that were using their anyway. So it's just one of those things that I don't know. I think just like the word bullying, I think we use the word ego way more than what it is defined as, and or way more than the intent of what that ego sounds like. And I also believe that we don't acknowledge that humans have ego issues. Ego is something that's typically attributed to men, right? And I think everyone can have ego because I've certainly seen it, and I certainly think that there's a difference between um, your ego and your confidence and those different things, and they get strayed and confused.
That's
That's what
interesting.
I think.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think that's an interesting point about relating it to men. I think men normally are a bit more outspoken. We tell you exactly how we feel in that moment, and especially when black men do it, nobody likes when black men speak up. Nobody likes when black men are confident. Nobody likes when black men know what to do. I mean, it doesn't sit well with you. When Muhammad Ali was Cassius Clay, he said, "Call me by my name, Muhammad Ali," and beat some dude. He could have knocked out in the second round, but he beat him for the whole 12 rounds just to give him what he deserved. But Muhammad Ali, we talk about him. He's cocky. but he's well loved. He's hero. He's a hero to every black man that I know personally. But Floyd Mayweather, he's hated, right? Everybody hates Floyd Mayweather. Everybody hates Kanye West. But when Biggie and Tupac talk so confidently on tracks, we like, woo, okay, make me want to go be a rapper. Jay-Z's name, his nickname is Hova, Jehovah Witness. Like that's another name for God in a different language, but nobody talks about Jehovah. We only talk about, the people that we don't like. We talk about the people we don't like personally. So we're no longer talking about that thing, talking about that person.
Right.
It's kind of like what I spoke to Julius earlier, and I was like, I'm very conflicted on ego, because I think the definition, we no longer go by the actual textbook definition of what ego is. It's kind of a social thing now, and everyone has an ego, and it could be good or bad, but it's not the ego that makes someone good or bad. It's that person, whether they already were a good person or a bad person. The Floyd Mayweather and the Muhammad Ali is a great example. Muhammad Ali was for the people, but he was egotistical as hell.
Yep.
But Floyd Mayweather was about me. Look at my $1 million watch. Look at this. Look at that. So nobody likes it in that instance. But they're both birthed from the same thing. So
Yeah,
I think the ego is not the problem. It's the character of the person associated with the ego. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Because when you compare those two, just piggybacking off you, that Muhammad Ali was 100% a different man than, say, a Floyd Mayweather. At least from what we can, I didn't personally know either one of them, but as far as what is showing up, and then there was a different time too. So then,
True.
Because Muhammad Ali was absolutely considered egotistic by people who didn't look like us.
No, definitely. Even people who look like us. There are
Even some of those too.
Cool with them, yeah.
Right? But then I think also you look at, well, he was at a time where when he beat that, when he beat that one guy, that you got people of color and you got colorless, and when he beat that person, that, like, he could have almost did no wrong because he established us a certain way by that. Then when he said no to going to, all the things he did.
Yeah. But see,
yeah.
the thing is,
And I don't think ego got in his way. And that's the last part I'll say. I think ego becomes the problem when it gets in your way. And so if you can't apologize to someone because your ego won't let you, if you can't, and ego is real closely related, like ego and pride are like these twins that walk around and both influence each other.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you got too much, if your ego, so I just think that there's that.
But see, the thing where I have to disagree with both of you guys is what I said earlier, is like we talk about the person now. We're not even talking about the thing. So that you said Muhammad Ali, he's a 100% different person than Floyd Mayweather, right? And then Hannah, you said, well, it's the person. What'd you say? You said,
it's the person associated with the ego.
Right.
When we choose to, yeah.
So you're personalizing it, and that's where I have to disagree, because the definition is a definition.
Okay.
Right? Because if you're talking about Muhammad Ali in Classic, you said, well, he had that thing. He 100% had that thing. Well, they both have egos. We just don't like somebody else, right? So you can't just separate the definition because you like a certain person, and they're talking about things that you like, right? Like if you loved money, if you were like this big capitalist and you just love all of these things that Floyd Mayweather talked about, well, you love him. You're comparing his person now to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, when he was 20 years old, said, "I am the greatest. I am the prettiest person ever." That sounds eerily close to what Kanye West be saying, right? But everybody hates Kanye West the person. But when Kanye West says, "I am the greatest to do it," we hate him. But when Muhammad Ali said, "I am the greatest to do it," we say, "Yeah, that's so inspirational. He's instilling black pride. He's instilling black love all over the place," right? And we're still talking about the definition. We're not talking about the people.
But but the reason why we have to talk about the people, because and when you're talking about ego, you're talking about something that's based off a person's self-esteem and their self-importance.
Right.
Self,
Right.
which is the person. But I'm saying self, which is the person, and that's what is. I'm saying, like, if we're talking about ego in this way of where we've all taken this word and we people can mean a word different ways, even if it ain't defined that way, right? So when black people call somebody ignorant, they're not always talking about what ignorant actually means, which ignorance is the lack of knowledge. Well, everybody's ignorant to something if that's the case, right? But we're saying ignorant. So if a person's over there and they're acting like a jerk in the store, getting all out, we're gonna say that person ignorant. And why are they ignorant? Lack of knowledge don't even play a part in that. But we're going to still be able to say it. And so I'm just saying that to say that what could be happening here is when we talk about ego, if we're basing it off more of what it means, which has to do with how one feels about their awareness or a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance, then we are talking about the person. And ego, and that's part of what ego is. It's a big part. And then there's, like, if we were to look it up right now, there's probably 4 other maybe pseudo definitions under there, right? But ultimately, again, I think that's where it may seem like one thing is a little bit more right, or it's here's a perfect example of where this is just situation and circumstance, and what you may be discussing. I don't think personally. I've always had a love-hate relationship with Kanye that I enjoy. I enjoy my love-hate relationship. I don't hate him at all. I hate some of the things that he's went through. I don't always agree on some of the things. But I have a love-hate. I love people that, like, I don't feel like Kanye's is an ego. I feel like even Kanye and Mayweather, I feel like those are 2 different people even in that. And I think that their egos are different and how they express their importance and their self-esteem.
uh, it's kind of hard to separate the definition of ego from person, only because the definite, like, ego is nothing without a person embodying that. You get what I'm saying? Uh, Hitler had a crazy ego to think what he did and then do it. That takes an extremely egotistical person, right? But Martin Luther King also had an ego too. He just used it for a better thing. You get what I'm saying? So we like it in those instances. So it's hard to separate it until it's embodied by someone into what it is. So it's either gonna be good all the way or it's just bad all the way. But it's really not that. It's right down the middle.
Yeah, no, I disagree with that. I get what you're saying, but the thing is, it's like it's that thing, right? Like it's that thing. So if somebody uses it for a different cause, it's still that thing. So Hitler used it for a different cause, and Kanye used it for a different cause, and Floyd Mayweather used it for a different cause, but they still have that thing. That's
Got
the
it.
commonality between them two, and that's why I think when we like someone, we want to root for them. We want to put a cape on. We want to say, yeah. But then we don't even talk about the things that we like, right? When we talk about Muhammad Ali, we say, yeah, he was so confident. He knew he was going to go out there and conquer the world. But when he said that before we even knew who Kanye was, it was like, oh, Kanye, here it go. Stay in your lane, right? Because we don't like the fact that Kanye is so good and tells us he's so good. It's something about when somebody's so good and they tell you exactly what they're going to do, be like, wow, come on, bro. You could have just let us do Curry. You have an example about Curry.
Oh, him. I was telling Julius, I think he's one of the most egotistical players in the league, even though he doesn't come off like that at all. A lot of people look at him as the nice guy. But I was telling Julius, for a person to just pull up from half court and shoot the ball like on a regular basis, he knows he's gonna make it. He believes that much in himself. His ego's through the roof. It's just he doesn't
He's humble.
verbalize his, yeah, he's humble. He doesn't verbalize his ego.
Right.
And I think maybe that's probably what you mean with Kanye. Kanye lets you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
whereas okay, and them I get you now.
they have the
But
same.
then,
But
go
so
ahead.
but it's kind of hard to still separate though.
I think it's just because you don't like
It's
it. You know, it's something
it's
that you always
hard to
like, oh,
separate. It's hard to separate because what's happening is we're using a word that has everything to do with a person's self and who they are. And we're using it to try to, it's like we're taking it and we're trying to make a separate argument about a word that means something else. Like if you, right now, I've looked it up and it says the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious and is responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity, self esteem, self importance, self worth, self respect, self conceit, right?
right, okay,
So to me, it's like when we're talking about all those things, like I think it's a, I think I think it's a different conversation. I think that us not liking some, I don't think it's us not liking, like I don't think it's the ego that's doing it.
I
So
think that's
I think that anybody who has a certain layer of confidence and self esteem all have big egos. Doesn't matter. It's all big egos. What ends up becoming into play is who this person is around this ego. And that's why I think that it's important to talk about who the person is, because I just, that's just my thing. I get, and I also get where you're saying, because I feel what you're saying about the whole, like, this person's doing the same thing as this person. So how, but when we give this person a cape and an award, and we give this person flipping a bird and say we are embarrassed, he's even part of our culture, right? And there is some unfairness about that, but I don't think it's based off of because of the ego. I think it's the ego, what surrounds the ego, and how they're handing out their self worth, their self importance, their respect, their self conceit. How they're giving that to you
yeah,
is what I think.
It's kind of like money. A lot of money could be like a billionaire could use his money for good,
his or
but
her money.
his or her money for good, and a billionaire could also use his or her money for bad. The money is no different. It's the person and what they do with it. So, as for me, it's really I understand what you're trying to say, but it's hard to separate because ego doesn't exist outside of a person. It's not a separate entity. You know what I mean?
I dig it,
It
but
needs.
okay,
It's like
uh-huh.
it's like the same engine that Hitler had and Muhammad Ali had, but there was two different drivers.
No doubt.
So that's the
But you're
only way
talking
I
about
could.
the person, right? You're not talking about
I am.
the ego is the same thing. We're talking about the person, right? So I think if the ego upsets you, or if it makes you uncomfortable, or makes anybody uncomfortable, that's when we can say, "Oh no," right? Because if Jay-Z's ego apparently doesn't make many people uncomfortable, and his name is Jehovah, like his nickname is Jehovah, but it doesn't make many people uncomfortable, right? Kanye will say, "I am the greatest."